Okay, here we go. As you all are aware, we have been looking at body-worn cameras for over a year now. We put a users group together of officers from all different areas and assignments throughout the department and included some IT people in that group. And they looked at all of the different companies that had body-worn cameras. They wrote up a model policy using the IACP's policy as a guide and some of the other agencies that already had those. They put out an RFI, request for information, to the vendors, brought all of that in, had demonstrations, and then they put out the request for proposal and had vendors come in. They actually presented to a committee, and the committee consisted of representatives from the Tampa Police Department, representatives from IT, representatives from purchasing and procurement, and then a couple of other groups from the city. They made presentations to this group. Each of the members of the group scored the vendors, and then they gave all of that information to purchasing, and purchasing added it all up and chose the vendor, who happened to be Taser. Then that information was presented to City Council. They approved it, and we actually used law enforcement trust fund monies to purchase 60 cameras. There are 18 cameras in each of the 3 districts, and then we have 6 cameras on our bicycle unit. And we also partnered with University of South Florida early on, and they are following through this initial process. They're researching, and they're looking at the officers that are wearing cameras, and then a control group of officers who don't have those cameras. Everyone volunteered. We took members from the volunteer group to get the cameras, and then the control group, and they were just chosen from a group of volunteers. Now, over the past week, we had training. The officers were all trained. They were given the cameras, and this isn't as easy as it looks. I actually played with one in my office yesterday. Thank goodness none of these officers were there to see it, because it wasn't pretty. Half the stuff was upside down that I was recording. But there are a variety of ways that these can be worn, and you can see the officers, they decide what works best for them. They can wear them on glasses, they can wear them up on the epaulette, or on a baseball cap if they choose. What the only requirement is that we want it to be up high, and wherever the officer turns, that camera will turn as well. And so they're still kind of playing around and deciding what the best location is for them to wear these cameras. Now, we also trained in the policies. We've given that, or in the policy, we've given that policy to all of the supervisors as well. And as I said, this technology is still new. Everybody's learning. And so we have taken this very slowly to ensure that it was a thoughtful process for us, because we know there are going to be other law enforcement agencies, not only from the area, but throughout the nation, that are going to be looking at our experience going forward. Now, why did we get these cameras? We have an outstanding relationship with the community, but we see these cameras as the next tool to build upon that relationship, the next chapter in building upon that relationship with the community, building the relationships, and also building upon the transparency that we promise our citizens. And we believe that these cameras are going to be a great tool in that. The studies show, and this is what USF is looking at, that there are less injuries, resists, and injuries involved with officers wearing cameras. There's less complaints on officers who are wearing cameras. And as everyone has heard, my prediction is it may improve police behavior a little bit, improve citizen behavior a whole lot, and it's going to be a whole new reality show for the rest of the citizens. Because this will give the citizens of Tampa, in essence, the ability to walk in the shoes of a police officer. And most citizens have no idea the challenges and the dangers that officers face on a daily basis out there on the streets of their neighborhood. So I think it'll be a great learning experience for the citizens as well. Now, we have established a policy of when officers will record, when they can't record, and the rest of it, for the most part, is up to their discretion. There are 9 specific events that we expect the officers to record during, and those include traffic stops, pursuits, anything that might be a confrontational event, a physical arrest, use of force, in custody interviews, suspicious vehicles or persons, and then alarm calls and building checks as well. And the last caveat is whenever the officer feels that it might be useful. In a nutshell, that's what the policy when they're required to use it. And as far as the law is concerned, if an officer is legally in a location, they are able to videotape at that place. Now, there are times that they won't record. If the victim doesn't want to be recorded on camera, then clearly we have to honor those wishes. And if a person wants to provide information but they want to do that anonymously, clearly we wouldn't be recording that. And then if officers arrive, which we often do, and in-progress calls or they roll up on a very volatile situation, then they're asked to render aid or do whatever necessary first and then turn the cameras on as soon as they can. And I believe it will just become such a habit that the officers will just hit it automatically. But that's what we're asking. The public records requests are going to be the same as they are for the dash cams. You'll put those in. If the video has evidentiary value and it's been marked for that, then they will be made public at the discovery process. And if not, then the request will be put through the normal fashion, and then whatever cost associated with that and associated with the redaction for it. I know a lot of people want to know, how much does it cost? It was initially we paid $83,000 over a 5-year period for the 60 cameras. For the cameras, the maintenance, and the storage, video storage, you know, that's the most expensive portion of it. It's just over $287,000. So it's a very expensive venture, but again, this is the expectation of the public. And the reality is, whatever the officers do now out there on the street, somebody's videotaping it. So you might as well get the videotape from the officer's vantage point as opposed to having it edited and then put on YouTube somewhere, which we happen to see all the time. And just a little bit about the camera system themselves. They have a 12-hour battery life, and our officers work 11 and a half hour shifts. So the battery should last the entire shift. And they do, whenever the officer activates the camera, it backs up to 30 seconds to pre-record what occurred 30 seconds before they activated the video. But there's no audio for those previous 30 seconds. So the officers, we have charging banks in each of the districts, up where the bike unit's at, a couple of other locations, major crimes, so they can download that video. The officers can do that in the district, or they can choose to have their own docking station. If they have Wi-Fi capability in their homes, they can go in, they plug it in. As the battery charges, the video downloads, it goes to the cloud, it's stored by evidence.com. The officers have no ability to edit it. The officers do have the ability to view the video, and we ask in the policy that prior to writing reports, they view that video, and they can do that either through a Bluetooth option, through the Droid phones, or they can do it through their MDTs. So they can actually watch that video, see what occurred on that, but they have no way of editing or doing anything else with the video. So that, in a nutshell, is the program, and we believe that not only will it benefit the officers, it will be a great tool for us, but it will be a benefit for the citizens out there in the community. Again, to be able to see what the officers do every day, and then we'll have that video footage there in incidents which we may not have had in the past with the dash cams. All right, with that, I will open it up. I know no one has any questions.
In your policies, I noticed something specific that you told officers that they're going to be under more scrutiny if the camera is not turned on. Can you tell me a little bit of what you've warned your officers about, especially about that being on?
Well, again, we believe believe that it will become a habit, a natural habit for the officers to hit this button. But if in those 9 circumstances where they should have video taped and they didn't, then they have to explain that in the written report. They have to indicate why, if there was something wrong with the video camera. And we actually have had a couple of technical issues with the video cameras just in this 1 week. So that's the reality too. I mean, anybody that has a cell phone or any type of video camera, that they're apt to not functioning. Sometimes, like in my case, it's always the fault of the user, but sometimes it's the technology as well.
Have they already been in use today?
Yes, they've been using them for the last, as you know, we have 2 cycles. They work 4 days on, 4 days off, A and B. And so they've been using them, they've been playing with them, moving them to the different locations and whatever. As you can see in the different configurations where they like to wear them the best. One of the issues that we have found is up on the epaulette, which you can see the majority of the officers chose to put them up there, that the space is a little bit bigger. So we've already met with our uniform vendor to see if they could do something with the epaulette that would be a little more steady platform for the cameras. So we're looking into that already. One of the problems with the glasses, if you're wearing it on sunglasses, and you put those up on your head, then you have to adjust. Someone said it was cold the other day. He put his coat on, his camera's up here. Those are the types of things that we're looking through. Each of the officers has a choice. They can get a pair of the clear glasses, and they can put them on there. I tried that yesterday. The second I put on the clear glasses, I couldn't see anything, so it certainly ain't going to work for old people.
Chief, you said that the public has an option to sort of opt out, to say, I'd rather not be recorded. Are they going to be informed by the officers at some point that they are being recorded, or do they just have to have the supposition that...
No, if they're in a public location, then there's not an expectation to privacy. But if clearly I think everyone's aware that there's legislation currently being proposed that there will be certain circumstances that individuals won't be recorded in, and we agree with that. We get called in to some of the worst moments in people's lives, and I agree that private moments should remain private, and that they shouldn't be out there for the world to see.
So we're mostly speaking about victims when you're
Correct.
talking about this, more than the guys who were wanting to see on camera.
Correct.
Make sure we're talking
Correct.
about the victims.
Correct. And if an individual doesn't want to be recorded, then we would ask that they state that on film. If they don't want to do that, then they can just initial a form that says, I didn't want to be recorded.
How do you get past the criticism people say, as you said, the angle of the camera, whether something is just out of view, that this is going to be nitpicked apart by defense attorneys, and there's just going to become a very difficult thing for prosecutors to actually move the cases through that your good people are able to bring to.
Well, that's in part why defense attorneys were created. But that's true. That's going to happen. But they do that now in the officer's actions, whether there's video or not. So if there's video, then that's going to be clearly a target in some situations where they can, as you say, nitpick that. But we believe, and we've met with the state attorney several times on this, that it will be a benefit to the state in a lot of situations where an individual can't say, well, the officer's not telling the truth, it didn't happen that way when it's on video.
So will it be the same officers wearing the body camera? Or
They're all individually assigned, so they can't trade these body cameras. They're all assigned to that particular officer. So if something happens, they have some type of a technical difficulty with their camera, and they get another camera, then that has to be entered by a supervisor into the computer and assigned to them individually. So yes, they will wear the same cameras.
when they're walking, how exactly will it work? They'll walk up on a scene and then just turn it on?
They basically just push a button, and when they push the button, it goes back 30 seconds for video, not audio, and from the time they push the button, the audio and the video will be recorded.
And they'll keep that on until they leave the scene? Or
They'll leave it on as long as they, as it's necessary. For example, they do a traffic stop, it's going to be on during the entire traffic stop. And again, they just got them, and so they're still, just as they were all talking earlier, they were sharing stories about the best, the ups and the downs, and so it's going to be a learning factor here in the very beginning. But I believe just like with everything else, the repetition, they'll just get used to it, and they'll be pushing the button before they even know it.
Chief, in Sarasota, they quickly start to see how this could spin out of control between the storage of the information, the cost of trying
Yes.
to provide for people. Do you have any concerns that, not just from privacy, but that an open public records request, that this could become all-consuming for your department?
Right. We don't see it as being all-consuming, because with public records laws here, you have to be going after, you have to know what you're looking for in there, not to have a blanket request for every piece of video that the issues that they're facing out in Seattle. We don't anticipate that we'll see that here in Florida. Clearly, we're going to have an increase, dramatic increase in public records, and we've made some accommodations for that. We're looking to add another person to our public records group, the one that answers all of that. But we looked at the storage very, very closely when we negotiated this contract, and the short-term storage where we will keep the video. Now, we're going to keep it up to 90 days, but with only 60 cameras in the initial testing phase, that video will be kept for a lot longer than that 90 days. Now, if you have an area where it's immediate retrieval, if you want to get that video back immediately, just go to your computer and be able to pull it up. And then you have long-term storage, which is much less expensive, but it takes longer to retrieve that. And that's where we would keep information on homicides, sexual batteries, those types of things that don't have any end date on them.
So for some people, for example, if they had a confrontation, they come to you 180 days later, you might say that video's already gone.
That in the future, that could happen. But we believe that if someone has an issue with law enforcement or the actions of a police officer, that they would be able to determine that and contact us in less than 3 months.
So one more question, if I may, just from me, is that, Chief, there have been several police chiefs around the country. I feel like they ask you, have ties to Taser, they do consulting work for them after a deal like this comes through, they've gone on trips, they've been paid for by the company. Can you tell us or disclose at this point any connection outside of this contract that you have with Taser now or going forward?
Zero. I have been asked to go and testify on body-worn cameras, but I have declined all of that. And I don't intend to go work for any of the body-worn cameras. I don't. In our department, you have the ethical issue of what's right and wrong, and then you have the appearance of right and wrong. And I don't think that appears very well.
Chief, with regards to Senate Bill 248, the ACLU has said that they support body cams, but they don't like the way that bill would change the way that the information and the video is released. Do you think that's going to be a problem for you guys?
Well, I think what you're translating that to is they don't want to pay for it. And, we all wish we didn't have to pay our bills, but this video would not have existed prior to, so those are the public records laws, and, that's what's going to happen. If you want that video, then you're going to have to go through the process.
Yeah, their argument is that it would enable police departments to hide some of that video and keep some of that video from the public, and you disagree?
I disagree with that, because if they know they have a specific complaint, then they would be able to go and request that. So I disagree with that. And then on the other side, as you know, we have a great working relationship with the ACLU. On the other side, now they're going to have all of this video footage that wasn't there before. So I disagree. It just makes our agency, it just shows the public that we are as transparent as we say we are.
Your consideration of these body cams, did it predate the national cases that kind of
Yes.
encouraged a lot? So you have been looking at this for some time?
Right. I'm a part of a forecasting group with the Bureau of Justice, and I have been for several years now. And they started talking about these body-worn cameras some years back, and I saw a lot of issues associated with them. And so that's why we went at it, in a methodical and thoughtful way and got all officers involved in deciding on what cameras we would use, how the policy would be written, to get a lot of input, not just from the officers, but from the technical side, and just to make sure that we were doing the right thing and taking our time.
So this is definitely not a reactionary measure.
No, not at all, no.
Can you talk about the review of the video, not specific to an incident, but within your department, how will you go through and monitor when the video shows your officers? So will somebody be spot checking, not for operational?
Right, we will, that'll be part of our quality assurance to spot check that, but clearly, if you're gonna hire somebody to watch every second of the video, that's not gonna be possible. But, we will be, just as we do on a myriad of other issues, spot checking, just to make sure. And there's a lot of things out there that the officers never take credit for, the things that they do, and I don't find out about it until the citizens call in and say these wonderful things that the officers did. And whenever I call them and ask them about it, they're like, I was just doing my job. It's no big deal to them. So I think we'll find a lot more good in those videos.
Can you talk about, you said that initially volunteers stepped up to wear these. When will you roll it out more broadly?
Well, that's not a question for me because it'll be past May 8th, and that's when I retire. So I think they're looking at a year-long pilot program, and there may be other cameras rolled in prior to that. The experience of other agencies that have gone to this, we're also a member of the Major City Chiefs, and there are a number of those agencies that have already implemented them, and all of the chiefs said that when the first few officers got them, there was a lot of resistance, because there is resistance to change in any organization. But when the officers first started wearing them, as soon as the other officers saw them, then it was, well, why can't I get one that other officers wanted to get?
Can you tell us what other agencies you consulted with in developing the policy?
Well, International Association of Chiefs of Police, I know we got their model policy. What other agencies do we? Daytona. Yeah, the officers requested policies from other agencies to see what like issues were in there. And that policy, even though we have our policy and we feel that it's a very, very sound policy, that is going to change as this program gets implemented as well. Just if there's changes in the legislation, if that legislation goes through with public records exemptions, then we'll put that in there as well. But we feel it's a good start. All right, thank you guys very much. Now you get to ride along and film. I don't know how